on GH1 tomorrow. That's Monday at 8:30 p.m. You should get a abridged version of the program on that channel at 8:30 p.m. Also on Ghana Television at 8:30 p.m. You should watch the abridged version on that channel as well. This week we're going to look into the 8th months of the operations of the Integrated Customs Management Systems. That's what they call the ICUMS. We would look at how far they have come so far and the issues that we all heard about some time back when they began implementation, whether they still persisted, what's been done to all of that. We would deal with the subject with the men who are in charge, or the man who is in charge in particular. In the meantime, though, quite a number of things have happened around the port. Last week we had the Director General of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority in the studio. He mentioned categorically that there was going to be a facility, a building, sort of satellite offices at the KETA site where the port of KETA is going to be built. Indeed, this week that's been done. We were there to see the facility itself is almost completed. If it's not completed, it should be in this week. So just about a day or two, they should finish the entire facility up. That, as well as the Rotary Club of TEMA MERIDIAN, as well as the Ports and Harbours Authority, have done some wonderful gesture to the TEMA maternity clinic. All of that in news.
The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority has constructed a project office in Keji in the KETA municipality at the location where the proposed KETA port would be built that would serve as a reference point for all developments associated with the KETA port project. The satellite office is a specially made modular unit where development and planning meetings between GPHA and its technical partners will take place. It is also going to have an information center where all information regarding the KETA Ports project would be acquired by all people, including the KETA community members. According to the Director General of GPHA, Michael Uguje, feasibility studies on the KETA Ports project, currently ongoing by international consultants, would be completed by the end of January 2021. He said all plans associated with the development of the massive port infrastructure will take place in the project office.
When the project team comes and they need to discuss issues, usually from field you sit in the office to look at your drawings and plans and whatever changes needs to be done. All that work will be done here. And you'll notice that it is a facility that is going to serve a wider purpose for some time until the main port's major administrative block is determined, its location and its construction. So that is the purpose for this.
The DG said the KETA Ports project office, which is only days away from completion, will be manned by some GPHA staff, including personnel from GPHA Security Department with assistance from Ghana Police.
And we are very grateful to Ghana Police Service. We've applied to the IGP and he has graciously accepted to assist with police presence here day and night. GPHA Security will also be here. And then the information office will also be manned by some staff for now. But the rest will be project staff that will come in and out, including the Director of KETA Port himself.
The DG of GPHA also assured that some residents of KETA are going to be employed to man the KETA Port project offices.
You always need to involve the community. So certainly, the complement of staff we'll be having here will include some from this community.
The director of KETA Port, Dr. Alexander Yaweduse Jr., solicited the support of all Ghanaians towards the successful realization of the KETA Port, which would develop the Volta region of Ghana.
We need the support of all the citizenry and all the political parties, if so be it, so that we can develop the KETA Port for the benefit of Volta region. And that's what we are interested in.
He said there is every indication GPHA will see to the realization of the vision to have a port in KETA for the development of the Volta region.
What we know is developing a port is not an event. It's a process. But if you look at what we've done, we've actually advanced the process to have a project office on site ready to go. Tells us that GPHA is ready for the development of KETA Port.
The engineering contractor for the project office indicated that the facility is very durable and well fitted for the purpose intended. The Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority deems it necessary to support worthy causes that elevates the standard of living of Ghanaians. To this end, GPHA has been sponsoring some impactful community initiatives of the Rotary Club of TEMA MERIDIAN. The Port Authority has recently sponsored the Rotary Club of TEMA MERIDIAN for the renovation of the TEMA maternity home to provide a more conducive environment for nursing mothers who visit the facility. Hitherto, the inadequate shelter at the maternity home exposed nursing mothers to the harsh sunshine and sometimes rain. The Deputy Director of Nursing Services at the TEMA maternity home during the commissioning of the renovated health facility said the donation will go a long way to help the nurses provide quality health care to clients who visit the facility.
Formerly, pregnant women were seen hanging around and standing under the scorching sun and the rain. Situation affecting client safety, leading to low coverage in our antenatal registrants and attendants. But with the help of Rotary Club, TEMA MERIDIAN branch, all these are now things of the past.
The president of the Rotary Club of TEMA MERIDIAN, Philip Gebu, lauded the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority for heeding to the call to improve the health facility.
Contacted Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, who agreed to sponsor this project, for which we are very grateful. Let's give a big round of applause to GPHA.
The Assistant Governor of Rotary Club, William Ofori, assured that the humanitarian group will continue to leverage on available resources to make lasting impacts on the society. He encouraged the custodians of the maternity home to exercise high maintenance of the facility as they continue to seek for further improvement.
I would encourage all of us to make good use of the facility, but let us also look after it well. That is the only way we can show gratitude. And then hopefully more people will come.
The Principal Marketing and Corporate Affairs Officer of GPHA, Samuel Ajeman, stated that the renovation of the TEMA maternity home falls within GPHA's corporate social objectives in healthcare, hence the support.
When Rotary approached, and they approached sometime back about 2 years ago, we decided that we share common objectives and we wouldn't let them just do it by themselves. So we wanted to join hands and be able to do this together. That is why you see what you're seeing today, the partnership, the collaboration. And we can assure them that it's not just going to be the first.
Meanwhile, the 2019-2020 National Service Badge of the Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority, whose time at GPHA was somewhat shortened by the coronavirus pandemic, has made donations to the New Life Children's Home in Nungua. The 2019-2020 badge of the National Service personnel, numbering 481, donated a polytank and toiletries to the children at the charity as one of its key projects to cap their year as a group. Earlier in October, the group donated 2 branded benches for GPHA's transport yard, 25 branded glass wall and table clocks for the various receptions of the authority, with accompanying citations as a token of their gratitude for the opportunity given them.
On behalf of GPHA NASPA 2019-2020, we present these items to the New Life Nungua Children's Home as a show of goodwill and also support to the good works you are doing here. And may the Lord continue to bless you.
The founder of the New Life Children's Home, Nia Foteboche II, who is the chief of Otino, said since its establishment in the year 2000, the institution has been able to solicit support from individuals and organizations towards the development of the underprivileged children, with some attaining tertiary levels of education and others vocational careers.
We have some who have started their own business. Some of them mowed the block for our new building. The fabricating work were also done by them with a professional. So apart from the normal academics, they are also doing what we call vocation and technical.
Our report returns shortly after the break.
and again, Goil makes good things happen. This time, Goil has introduced Super XP Ron 95, a higher grade fuel loaded with additives and yet sold at the same price as normal fuel. Goil Super XP Ron 95 enhances engine performance like never before. It maintains the engine by keeping it clean from carbon deposits. Goil Super XP Ron 95 is designed to burn slowly and thus improves fuel economy, making you save money after several kilometers. Goil Super XP Ron 95 gives you a smooth driving experience, that is, less vibrations. Fill up with Goil Super XP Ron 95. Now there's no need to pay more for any higher grade fuel. Goil has that sorted. Goil, good energy.
Electricity, then pay your taxes. Yeah. Our taxes, our future.
Because you see, without our taxes, we wouldn't have good roads, good schools, better hospitals, street lights, and other very important social amenities. When we pay our taxes, we give our children free and quality education. Talga, my money too small. Why should I pay my tax? Look, small. Salifo, it doesn't matter how small or big your business or income is. You still have to pay your taxes. The little taxes from each and every one of us, when put together, could give your community clean water. Or that deprived school with tables and chairs. Please pay your taxes. It is your responsibility. It is your civic duty. It is the law.
Oh, how are you?
Hi Yvonne, a few words please. Everyone is talking about the fire at your production house last week. How are you holding up? Has production stalled?
No, not at all. My crew and everyone on my set is perfectly fine because I insure with Serene Insurance. As a matter of fact, I've had all my equipment replaced, including the vehicles that were affected. My workers have been sorted out. Even my production downtime has been covered, so it's all good. I have a meeting to attend to, so I have to get going. Sorry about that.
Which insurance company did you mention?
Serene Insurance, the new face of insurance, a member of First Sky Group.
Sa coronavirus yare no yare a sign pa. So obinya bi na se opo wagu so ana se ohwinti gu so a utumenya yare ni bi.
Okadi ni bahani onaka oyehila ekoji. Ohe banye do. Oba wulo. Ogo bahunu. Oba chine e ojamba wohe oba na sen kaka mekme musunchon mekme nu ni enihe chitomo boni nke je mo femo ba chon okadi na eko.
Coronavirus infection, the symptoms can range from mild, one of it being asymptomatic. Asymptomatic just means that you may not have any symptoms at all, and the disease process can gradually worsen to be a severe form, the severest being ultimately death.
We are expected to sanitize our hands when our hands are not visibly soiled or you can't really see dirt on your hands. If you can see dirt on your hands, the best thing to do is to wash your hands with soap and the running water.
If you're using any of the cloth face masks, always make sure you have a rubber bag ready to receive it when you remove it, or you have a bowl of warm soapy water in which you can place the mask and wash. Wash your mask, dry in the hot sun for at least 5 hours, and apply heat by way of ironing.
Utiliser les ports de TEMA et de Takoradi, c'est avoir un traitement rapide et sécurisé de vos marchandises diverses en conteneurs, en sac ou en vrac, ainsi que tous vos véhicules en transit. Le Ghana a construit un parking bien pavé pour tous les véhicules en transit. Une nouvelle gare frigorifique pour le stockage de la marchandise congelée en transit. Avec un nouveau centre de traitement de données construit et la mise en œuvre efficace d'un guichet unique national qui permet aux données d'être accessibles par tous les intervenants, le traitement des dossiers dans les ports du Ghana est maintenant efficace et plus efficient. Utiliser les ports du Ghana, c'est profiter des systèmes de portes électroniques et d'exploitation des terminaux, ainsi que de la réservation des navires en ligne, entraînant ainsi un parc de camions fiable pour un acheminement de vos marchandises dans les brefs délais avec un suivi satellitaire jusqu'à nos frontières. Les femmes, à vous les honneurs. Les ports de TEMA et de Takoradi célèbrent la femme. Que les bienfaits de cette célébration apportent plus de bénédictions.
Welcome to the program. So my guest in the studio is Mr. Emmanuel Ohene. He's the Assistant Commissioner of Customs and Chairman of the ICUMS, that's the Integrated Customs Management Systems Implementation Team. Mr. Ohene, pleasure to have you back in the studio. Sometime back, I think about 5-6 months, is it 6 months ago? It was in May, right?
Yes, last May.
You were here with a battalion.
Yes.
Okay. How are you doing, though? And how's customs?
Very well, thank you, and good evening to your cherished viewers.
Yeah.
GRA Customs Division, we are marching forward. We have been confronted with several challenges, but we are not daunted by them. And by the grace of God, we're beginning to see that when you work hard, you can reap the results.
That's good to hear. We'll delve into that. I'm sure that there's a lot of details and that tiny statement you have made, so we'll probably delve into that. But we found the need to bring you back after, say, 6 months of meeting here, from May till now, because you began the implementation of the integrated custom management systems. And the last time you were here, we had a lot of issues raised, and there were a lot of assurances also given from your side that you're fixing that, you're going to deal with that and all of that. Today we want to be able to understand the ICUMS. We want to be able to understand where you are right now. We want to be able to understand how clearance is currently at the port. And I keep getting, and some are already in, keep getting a lot of requests from people. Can I be able to check my own duty and all of that? And all these issues, we want to be able to get to this understanding of where we are when it comes to port clearance at the port. At this point, where are we?
Okay, thank you very much, Sami, once again. Let me start by maybe taking us back to the genesis of ICUMS, most probably from March this year. When the decision was taken by the government to introduce a single service provider who would provide an end-to-end system for the management of customs operations and trade facilitation, ICUMS, which is the Integrated Customs Management System, we rolled out from the frontiers from the 1st of March 2020. And when I mean the frontiers, we started at the eastern frontier in Aflao, in Poglo, and in Akanu. We moved up to Ho and onboarded Nive, Honuta, and Shia under their flower collection. Then we continued to the northeastern part of the country, where we rolled out the ICUMS in Kulungugu, in Paga, and in Bolga, and then in Wa in the Upper West, and Hamile also in the Upper West. Then we came down to Sunyani, and then we rolled out in Gonokrom and in Kofibedu Krom, and then came down to the south and westmost part of the country, and we rolled out in Elubo. This all took place in March.
Okay.
And we continued with the deployment and moved into Takrady, which is the second port office we have for the GRA Customs Division, and rolled out the ICUMS in April in Takrady. We continued with the rollout at the KIA just before the end of April, and then we moved into the petroleum industry and rolled out in May with the petroleum industry. And then in June of 2020, the ICUMS was deployed in TEMA,
the TEMA port,
Accra collection, that is Jamestown, and nationwide. It is very important.
And nationwide, are you adding the TEMA port?
Including the TEMA port.
The TEMA port, okay.
Yes, and we had Koforidua, you had Kumasi, some of the inland stations, Tamale, they were all part of the nationwide deployment. And it's interesting to mention that at the onset, especially in Takrady and in TEMA, which, have a more complex form of operations because we have all the customs regimes that are operational in those collections. We had several challenges at the onset, and even though we were certain that they were surmountable, I mean the resistance and the opposition was quite frightening, but we were not, we're not pushed over, and we had to, stand and explain that there was going to be light at the end of the tunnel. I must first say that we need to acknowledge the very tireless role made by several ministers, from the senior minister to the Minister of Trade, the Deputy Minister of Finance, and our Commissioner General and the Commissioner of Customs. They spent endless days and nights with us, to try to see how best we could, roll out these issues. We also have the former Deputy Minister of Trade, Honorable Carlos Ahinkra, play a yeoman's role as well in the deployment nationwide. And the team together that was formed, to manage the deployment, spent, our days and our nights putting our heads together to ensure that the knotty issues that, had come up at the on-stage could be addressed, promptly and on time. We had issues with the first day in TEMA, where the tax identification numbers didn't work. We had issues which, are technical, like the quarry that has to do with, the operations at the Meridian port services and all of that. And it was quite, a tough time in our lives as professional, officers. But thanks be to God, we were able to, surmount these problems in a very shortest possible time. And by the end of September, we could say that we were beginning to see very modest gains. As we speak today, we have over 2007 customs officers, comprising customs, operational staff, and then post-clearance audit and internal audit that are using the integrated customs management systems in their day-to-day activities. We have so far been able to onboard in excess of 5,675 stakeholders that are drawn from freight forwarders, shipping lines, banks, the freight forwarders, the shipping lines, the banks, the terminal operators, the inland container depot operators, and the business community. So you can see that our reach has been very wide. As we speak today, customs offices which hitherto were never connected by our automation drives have all been onboarded. We have so far onboarded close to 141 customs offices.
Okay.
Some we are in the process of onboarding. We've been to places like Wonjuga, Bumprugu, Tatale, Yendi in the northern region. We've been to stations like Sampa, Atuna, Yakrum, Nkrankwanta, Oseko Jukrum. All these stations virtually were operating, manually, before the introduction of the ICUMS. And as we speak today, we can say that the ICUMS, due to its easy access, where you don't need too much infrastructure to roll out, has been deployed in most of these offices.
Okay, so I have quite a number of issues that had been raised from the beginning.
Okay.
And I would love for you to take them one after the other, okay, and tell us what the states are. So from the beginning, we had about 10 not populating, for instance. We also had about BOEs, for instance, taking weeks and all of that. I would want for you to address some of these things. Where are they? Do we have, your 10s are populating now, right and good, that you have mentioned? The BOE is taking weeks and all of that. Are people able to go through the the clearing processes in how many hours or days? Because from May 2017, I recall the vision or the hope of the government at the time when the Vice President directed for a paperless process around the port, the vision was to have about 4 hours of clearance processes. What is the level of speed for which one can clear using the ICUMS system? These are the outlines I want to find out. I would seek your opinion on shortly. But are you saying that ICUMS is everywhere now, at every station where clearance of goods are done?
That is not the exact picture. ICUMS has been deployed to most offices where we never had any form of automation. We are in the process of onboarding all customs offices. Our vision is to ensure that that can be completed before the end of the first quarter of 2021.
Where and where is left?
We have stations in the new Western North, such as Omampe, Sewom, Krokusue, Yakase. Let me mention that, in fact, these posts originally are preventive posts.
Okay.
You know, but we want to ensure...
So they were manually done
yes,
previously?
Yes. And then if you look at the OT region, which has been newly created. We've also had a newly created customs office collection for the OT region. And we are yet to deploy in Tinjase and Menuso.
So most of the areas that were manual, they are still manual? Yeah.
Most of the areas that were manual. Now, ICUMS, as I explained earlier, we had Wonjuga, Tatale, Yendi. They were all manual.
Okay.
But we've deployed the ICUMS there.
Okay.
You have some stations like Mognori, Namu in the Upper East, Tumu has received equipment, Bole has received equipment, where, you know, we're in the process of onboarding, you know, those offices. So the equipment have been sent to some of the offices, and the officers and the various stakeholders at those frontiers are receiving training. As I speak with you, a team is on its way to Sunyani collection, where they are taking the officers and the stakeholders from Sampa right down to Osei-Kojokrom through training. I just returned from Elubo last night, and we were in Elubo to offer refresher training for the officers and the freight forwarders and the other stakeholders, and then passed through Hafasini, where the offices are Jewiwaf, only yesterday. And so the process of, you know, ensuring that the ICUMS is deployed into all these offices is in a very advanced stage.
Okay, and I wanted to know, how long does it take now to get BOEs classified, for instance, because we had serious complaints coming from KIA, for instance, that said that it took them about a week and all to get BOEs classified.
As we speak to date, I would wish that, you know, the freight forwarders could speak for themselves. I'm sure some of them will call in, you know, as the discussions go on. But I can say with some, you know, level of satisfaction that the delays have decreased considerably. One of the reasons why...
To what extent?
Close to 70%, 70, 80%. One of the reasons why this is happening is because we have also taken on the decision to decentralize most of the activities that one has to go through in the clearance processes. And when I say that, I mean hitherto in the previous systems, and even at the onset of ICUMS, we had the Customs Technical Services Bureau responsible for all imports, exports, transit, re-export, and the like. And as we speak, we have not only initiated, you know, the processes where now the outstations have been empowered and trained to manage, you know, some of the customs regimes. So in a place like Elubo, where we had, you know, a lot of complaints at the onset, the decentralization has taken place. in Aflao, we have some decentralization that's also taking place. Some of these things cannot be done overnight because the officers need the appropriate training, and then we need to deploy the logistics as well.
Okay.
Which is what we are in the process of doing.
Okay, so if you step back to my BOEs, for instance,
yes.
How long practically, even though you said 70%?
Okay, let me explain. If you submit your documents in the ICUMS and you have no queries or nothing to stop the process from going forward, because of the different modules we have, the pre-manifest declaration module, it would not even take you 1 hour to process that stage where you have your information to enable you make payment.
I see.
Okay, so if you are compliant, you would not go through that rigmarole of spending too many hours or the like, in processing your pre-manifest declaration documentation.
What about codes for export and transit and transshipment? Do you have them now? Because initially that was also a problem. Those were missing.
Those were some of the challenges we had. Indeed, let me mention that one of the modules we had was something known as the BT transportation, and
which was what?
BT, it has to do with bonded transportation for goods that are being transited and the like.
Okay.
When we started, even though we had offered training for most of the freight forwarders, admittedly the training didn't go down well, and the sector commander in TEMA requested that we suspended that for further training to take place. And one of the challenges then was with the transit. A lot of the traders too needed to come on board, which they didn't do when they should. And so for the BT transportation and the like, when they receive the appropriate training, now it's so easy for the transitors to process their documents to every exporting office in customs. That issue of transit re-export, for instance, as I said earlier, because it had to be managed by the center, we obviously encountered delays. But as we speak today, we have decentralized the processes of re-export nationwide. And so the officers, at the respective frontiers and the exporting offices are managing it. In addition to that, we have a dedicated team, in TEMA that is also managing, any excesses that, would come up in the event that, this station or that station is not able to do it.
I would want you to give us a sense of how long it takes if I start a process of clearing goods currently at the port. How long does it take to finish it through the ICUMS? Okay,
through the ICUMS, there are several modules. Now, one of the very attractive modules, which is being used by about 70% of the freight forwarders, is what I just explained, the pre-manifest declaration. Now, it is one of the pillars of the trade facilitation agreement from the World Trade Organization. It allows you to process your paperwork and make payment prior to the arrival of the vessel and the goods. And that takes you a few minutes to do and then to make the payment. Okay, admittedly, there are instances where people get hitches simply because they might not be following the procedures and the processes that the ICUMS takes you through. But if all things are equal, in a matter of hours, you should be able to process your pre-manifest declaration documentation.
Essentially, you're saying that even with that, the pre-manifest documentations and procedures, if the agent knows what to do,
you should be able to do that in a matter of hours. It might not even be 2 hours. It doesn't even have to be 2 hours.
Okay, so why don't they know what to do? Have you had enough training with them?
The training is continuous, and we have a center that is responsible for helping them. And for most of them today, they're doing it. I mean, I would dare say that, the challenges we had 6-7 months ago with, understanding the system is still persistent.
It's still?
I said, I will dare say.
Okay, dare say that it's still persistent.
Yes.
Okay.
It's interesting because one of the, difficulties we had was with something called manifest matching.
Yeah.
Okay. And that was a serious thorn, in the flesh of, the agents. And for those of us who were, the technocrats, I mean, it was a sore point. But once, they were able to appreciate and understand the processes, it became a matter of course for them to go through it. And we don't have instances, with these things, if everything you have to do is being done as you should do it.
So that comes back to what I really want to know. What's the missing link? Why aren't people getting to know exactly what they need to do? Are you offering enough training for them continuously?
It's a new system. And technology, is not the preserve of one person. Some are on a different pedestal from others. And so those who are slow learners still have some of these challenges. That notwithstanding, we have a dedicated team, that offers regular training and assistance to those who have challenges. Just last night, I was in a discussion with one of the big players at the port, and he was telling me the challenges we had at the beginning. I don't even think about them again. And he's not an isolated case. I mean, the feedback that comes from them is so important to some of us. So we take time to engage them, to find out whether, some of the issues that, they were confronted with 4 or 5 months ago are still there. And so I would say that those who have challenges, it could be that either they are not, processing their documentation the way they should, or maybe they have inadequate information that they should have provided to facilitate their clearance.
And at some point, people were worried that you were not even located within the port environment. People had to, when they had difficulties, getting their issues resolved, they would have to walk all the way or drive or pick a car all the way to a certain location which was unknown to them before they can get their issues resolved. Are you at the front line? Are you at the doorstep of those who are using your services at the moment?
Let me explain that. When we even started, we had the help desk and the customer services located at every customs location where ICUMS was operational. In spite of that, we had several dedicated teams, scattered across. Some were located at the GPHA headquarters, some were in a hotel, some were in TEMA. Now, let's bear in mind that when we started, this was the beginning of the COVID, and it was in the heat of the COVID that the ICUMS was deployed. And in order to observe the protocols and to ensure that, we didn't exacerbate the pandemic situation, we had to, ensure the safety of the freight forwarders and our staff as well. And so we had to look for places that were convenient to interact with the freight forwarders. As we speak today, we moved to the long room in August of 2020. And so we have a help desk, we have a dedicated team that is
at the long room.
That is in the long room. And it's important to mention that we also have the Ghana Link, our technical service providers, now having their own offices at the harbor, commercial area. And so it is very easy to reach, the ICUMS team, either in the long room or the ICUMS, office very close to the harbor roundabout.
Yeah, because
so we have now brought the
it's closer to the people,
doorstep of the agents.
Okay, even and this happened in August 2020.
Yes, even during the heat of all of this, we had teams even in the customs in places like the GPHA, and even at the GIF, secretariat.
But the main thing was that people had to walk all the way to there's a somewhere a hotel that they had to go.
It was a decision that was made by they themselves, because we had teams even in the long room.
Okay.
We had teams also.
So they opted to go all the way down.
We had teams also even at the GPHA headquarters. The Minister of Trade, directed, that we set up, a satellite office on the second floor of the GPHA, headquarters, and we had a team there, that was ready to, assist.
So now that team is there,
but I must admit that they found the crop of officers, the concentration more at the hotel, because that was where we set up camp, and that was.
They thought that's where they would get their results faster.
Yes, why they were trooping there as well.
And then because one of the concerns was that after one's assessment, there was a worry that you would have to go to compliance to get affirmation, and before you get a benchmark. And they thought that it was breeding corruption.
Let me explain this to you very clearly. Prior to the commencement of the ICUMS, you had what you call the pre-arrival assessment reporting system, which was managed by a different entity. Now they were responsible for ensuring that you could obtain your final classification and valuation report. Okay, when you obtain that report, you now made payment at the bank. Before the documents were sent they were sent for compliance to verify the authenticity of your paperwork and all of that. Now the ICUMS broke that system down, and so once you submit your document electronically, classification valuation is all processed in ICUMS together with what do you call it, a supervisor appraising the documents to ensure that everything is correct. When that is done, then what you call a tax bill is created, and you as an agent or an importer, at the click of a button, you can generate your tax bill. So the issue of having multiple steps to follow, classification, valuation, payment before you go to compliance, was taken away by the ICUMS. So it's important that we understand that the multiple routes one had to go through prior to the payment of duties was done away in the ICUMS.
I see.
Yes.
So why then were people worried that if you are done with your assessment and you have to take it back to compliance and then get affirmation for it, that should create some level of room for people to manipulate the process?
I just explained that at the beginning of the processes,
it was
the understanding of some of these things were not very clear. And we had to admit that we needed to do more of training,
okay,
more of public education and understanding of the systems. And so that was done, and that is still being done.
Okay. How well are you connected with DVLA now?
We are connected nationwide to all the DVLAs.
Okay.
And at the onset of the ICUMS, we didn't have the benefit of historical data, even for vehicles. But the teams that we had did a lot of groundwork to ensure that we could have some seamless flow with vehicle registration and verification of vehicle documents, prior to obtaining a registration number for your vehicles, at the DVLAs. And that took, a lot of effort. But as we speak today, the data for, registering vehicles is available.
So initially, some of the things that I heard, for instance, somebody said my 2020 vehicle, DVLA says they can't find it from the ICUMS system.
I'm not sure you can hear that again.
Okay.
I'm not sure you can
Since
hear that
when
again.
did you rectify that?
This should have been maybe 3 or so months ago.
Oh, I see.
3 or 4 months ago, yeah.
Okay. What about transit, though? People have also raised issues, or back then, there were a lot of issues about because once you took over, were you in charge, or are you in charge of monitoring the transit goods to the final destination?
Yes, the ICUMS system is in charge of monitoring the tracking
of the goods.
Of cargo from point A to the final destination. When we took over with the tracking, initially the tracking devices that we had were not adequate. And so what we did was we resorted to ensuring that the cargo was escorted
physically
together with the national security.
Okay, so just to hold on that. So the then tracking devices were pulled out by the previous vendor?
Certainly.
Okay, and didn't didn't have
we had the tracking devices.
But they were not enough.
We didn't have the numbers.
Okay. But what numbers were pulled out, and what numbers did you come in with?
I do not readily recall the numbers that were pulled out by the previous vendors. But if my memory serves me right, we had in excess of 2,500.
Oh, that's what you came in with?
Yes, at the beginning.
So why then did we have or hear quite a lot of these issues of delays because tracking devices were not available? 2,500 tracking devices should be fairly good enough
at the beginning
transit
of
trucks that are
at the beginning of the whole undertaking, there was a lot of apprehension. There was a lot of uncertainty, and this is normal with the deployment of every system anyway. We had also a lot of trumpeting of how the whole ICUMS was not going to work, and so people were a little shaky. In fact, our transitors had problems with the registration, which we had to address. And once we realized that there was a need for us to increase the tracking device, which was already in mind to do, we now had to augment the strength of the tracking unit by bringing in more devices. So it was not in a matter of 2 or 3 months before the complementary device that we were expecting came in. When we started with the ICUMS for even the tracking. So some of these apprehensions were real, others were very imagined. I must admit that. And as we speak today, we cannot say the situation is the same as it was then.
What has improved, though?
The first thing is that we stopped the escorts.
The physical escort.
We stopped that. When? I'm sure sometime in August or September. And in any case, escorting of cargo by humans is not something that is forbidden or is not permitted. When there are really high risk goods, for whatever reasons, customs can take the decision to include human escorts.
Yeah, but some of your men too have raised some risk issues with that, and in the past it hasn't been so helpful. For which reason the mechanical means was being opted for.
I'm not saying that is the norm. What I'm saying is
it's not forbidden.
No, what I'm saying that
but it's not the best, is it?
No, in instances where you have to place a human escort, that happens. Yeah. But the norm is that the tracking devices are deployed and are fixed to the tracks, to facilitate the transit trade.
But between the two, I think that if I gather from some conversations we've had in the past with some of your men, the idea was that the physical escort with humans, one, the expense, the cost involved, two, the human, the risk, humans involved and all of that. And so we have been clear on the need to move from the physical escort to having this mechanical means of monitoring and tracking and doing all of that. So that should be the focus. Are we at this point sure that that's where we are and we have stabilized there?
Sam, let me assure you that is the norm as we speak today.
Okay.
That is the norm as we speak today. I only mentioned that just to, buttress
say that it's not not far-fetched.
Yes,
it's been done.
But that's the norm. The tracking of transit cargo is the norm. with what do you call it, the electronic devices is what is, in place today.
Okay. Have you been able to secure more, procure more
Yes.
to the numbers we have?
Yes.
So what numbers do you have now?
I will say that we have in excess of 5,000 plus.
5,000 tracking devices?
Plus, yes.
I see. So then that
maybe
shouldn't
might
be,
even be close to 7,000 to be,
see.
modest. Because you see, the idea was not to bring in 3 or 4 and leave it there. The idea was to, introduce the devices in, once we started.
And the level of quality, because that's been, in the past, that's been the worry that they could be tampered with and all of that. People could move them out and still divert goods here and there. What's the level of quality of what you have now?
I do not think that the quality we have is inferior to what was, being used before the advent of the ICUMS. The quality,
is it the same quality?
The quality of the systems we have is above board.
Is it an improved version of what used to be there?
Yes, I will say so.
What's your measure?
We have systems where you have the mesh that goes over the cargo, and then the lock itself, that secures it. Okay. Now the team to also monitor. We have the screens and a setup that is responsible for ensuring that in real time they can determine the location of any of the trucks that is en route, to any exit point. So that is in place.
Are they not, can't one detach that from the cargo?
Sammy, let's not pretend as if, we don't have miscreants.
Who can go to the extreme of doing things.
Extreme.
But we also try as much as possible all the way to reduce the ability to...
So we certainly, will not rule that out. But our aim is not to encourage them to, have the upper hand. So the systems that have been put in place are geared towards ensuring that we can reduce these things to the barest minimum.
There's issue about rent house, the rent... the warehouse rent, for instance, currently. Is everything perfect with the the warehouse renting when it comes to ICUMS?
We have had extensive discussions on it's actually the state warehouse rent.
State warehouse.
Yes, and just yesterday we had to, whilst I was returning from Elubu, some of my technical team members, who have been putting their heads together on this, were briefing me further on some of the progress we are making in that regard. The system already is in place, okay, but it looks like we could fine-tune it and do it better. So it's a matter that is receiving utmost attention and priority from the ICUMS team. The issue of the state warehouse rent.
What is the issue first?
The issue is that the system is set up such that the agents found it inconveniencing having to, go and have it manually calculated for them before they go back, to go and pay. The commuting from one point to the other, was quite uncomfortable. And admittedly, we were actually very much aware of that. And the administration in TEMA took some decisions to see how we could ameliorate the situation. But we in ICUMS thought that the system has been created to facilitate all of these processes and procedures. So we sought to ensure that you would rather effect the payment in the system, once you are found to have your goods liable to the payment of state warehouse rent. Now, a lot of the things we're doing, when it comes to our attention, we need to explain that to our technical partners for them to ensure that they can roll it out for us to try and then implement as we go along. So the issue of the state warehouse rent payment is one of the naughty things that the ICUMS team is expecting to resolve probably before the end of.
So that's currently one of your difficulties, because it goes beyond the commuting of the agents in facilitating their clearance. They also talk about the fact that it's difficult to generate a tax bill with it. So it's not just
I might not need to bore you with the technical details, but now the system has been designed to ensure that you can have the tax bill created together with the tax bill for the state warehouse rent. But these are areas where, as I explained earlier, we are very much interested in ensuring that we can bring closure to those challenges.
What about the release request on the to enable the GPHA accept and upload invoices? That area too, I understand that had some difficulties.
Let me also say that it's good, you are pointing some of these things out, because I was going to mention them, notwithstanding that we haven't reached where we intend to be. Not anywhere near. But we have come really far. One of the issues we seek to do is to decouple the release from customs payment and the shipping lines, such that your transaction with customs will not be tied to the shipping line, so that the shipping line will say, if you haven't finished with customs, we cannot release you. Do you understand me? That is one of the areas we want to deal with, and there's a team that is looking at it now as we speak to ensure that we can decouple the release with the shipping lines from customs.
So maybe you just take advantage and give us a general picture of your connection and operations with the other agencies as well. To what extent have you been able to connect with all the relevant agencies in terms of the clearance processes within the space there?
I said earlier, we have onboarded with the shipping lines. We have, when I say onboarded, we have integrated with MPS. We have integrated with the GPHA. We've integrated with all the shipping lines and the terminal operators. We've integrated with the inland container depots. Now, the system is such that the shipping lines will not release your cargo until there's evidence from customs that duties have been paid. Now this is where we are looking at how we can, I said decouple, such that the shipping lines
should be able to let you
deal with you, whilst we also deal with
independent
customs.
of your.
Yes, and I'm saying that it's a matter of priority. We are looking at seeing that can be done before the end of this year. So these are areas where we ourselves have identified, and we need to bring finality to how those transactions should be done.
So let me just announce the phone lines that you can call the appropriate time. The phone lines that you can call is 020-552-8353. It should be on your screen. The number that you can WhatsApp us on is 055-901-9177. And this one says, please, what Mr. Hine is, now officers take, because I can't alleging this is quite some way, so I would just skip. People say that they are saying that the BOEs are still a problem. To get them, you need to have to even bribe people and all of that. In these allegations, there are names that I have to skip. But do you still have difficulties, extreme difficulties, that is creating rooms for officers to manipulate the process?
I'd just like to say that I had a discussion with a freight forwarder, no, not a freight forwarder, a trade operator just last Wednesday. And one of the things that he was saying, which he didn't know, gladdened my heart, was the fact that the system has blocked virtually every loophole, such that, they can't even manipulate or find, any ways and means to, break through with any acts of.
Are you sure that's exactly what's on the ground?
This is a discussion I had with somebody who was telling me how difficult ICUMS has made their work in trying to, beat the system.
How has that been made?
He was telling me that right now, if
it's still difficult and there are delays in assessing BOEs.
The delays, I might have to explain. Okay, let me get back to yours before I get back to the story after. The delays could be multiple reasons. Okay, when we started having issues with a lot of delays, and there was a lot of hue and cry. For some, when we did the research, we realized that for a lot of the freight forwarders, their declarations had been queried, and they had not even bothered to even check on them. Okay, their declarations had been queried, and they had not even bothered to even check on them. Some of the declarants, and I must say this because people need to know, some of the declarants work through third parties. Okay, so once he's processed the documents through a third party, and the documents are held up, by customs, because he's not the actual, declarant in that office. If the third party does not inform him that this work, has been queried by customs, he goes all over and saying that the work has been stalled. I also have to admit that there are instances where there are genuine delays, by real, problems that are, people are confronted with when they are clearing. And in those instances, we need to, have those issues reported to the appropriate office for redress, for the appropriate redress. And so the system is not perfect as we would expect. In fact, our intention is to get there. But let's also bear in mind that we started this deployment barely 6 months, down the line. And so we still have, issues where we need to, fine-tune our act.
Okay.
Now, I cannot, deny that I have not heard reports about people, extorting money from, others, just to do their work, without, making any excuses. It's unacceptable. Okay.
And what are you doing about
that? And once we have, proof that these things are there, we deal with it. We have set up what you call it's a responsibility officer, even at the CTSB, to ensure that they will follow up on every, activity by officers to find out whether this declaration, which is to have moved from point A to point B, is being stalled or not. It is important to even add that in the ICUMS itself, there's a performance management system.
Okay.
Which monitors how long one keeps a declaration or not.
Okay.
So the assistant commissioner at the CTSB is very involved, in ensuring that these, acts of malfeasance, if they exist, they are addressed.
Okay. So are you then advising that if one realizes that there's even a delay, don't go and give yourself up to the officer and say, work it out for me and let me get it faster and get this or get that. Or even go negotiate to get this done faster. Because it is to the extent that even if your performance system identifies that the officer has unduly delayed, that officer can be taken on.
Certainly.
So I can confidently report that my system, it's taking me about 3-5 days instead of a day, and the officer who's working on it can be taken on.
Sammy, you and I had a discussion a couple of weeks ago about a freight forwarder who was insisting that a customs officer was requesting for X amount of money before he processed a document. And I told you that I would take that with a pinch of salt. Which
you did.
Which we did. And when I called into the office, I realized that indeed the importer had been misled by the freight forwarder. And he had a very erroneous picture about, customs, until I took time to explain to him that, the delay that he's encountering might not be even from the point of view of customs. And
it could have been the intermediary who was creating issues.
Just
I'll
like,
bring that up
yes.
for you to use it to clarify a few things, because the gentleman you mentioned is a doctor, and the issue he raised was going very far and wide and was actually destroying
the image of customers.
Your image. This fellow says, hello, Mr. Ajaman, please, why every Monday and Tuesday the system goes off all the time when you go to the bank? And this was also raised by one Benesi Irash. He says, sometimes your systems go down. You have rectified it quite well, but she says, like 2 times in a week, unlike before. I learned they have recently upgraded the system, but currently 2 times a week your system goes down. Is that true?
In the last 2 weeks, we've had some system challenges that I can readily recall.
Was it better before, rather?
Yes.
Rather,
and,
because
this
fellow says that it's been improved.
I would wish that, we could interrogate some of these things further. But I would tell you that in the last 2 weeks, we've had this challenge. And for them, there were system issues that, we had to, address immediately. And it is not the norm. It's not the practice where every Monday the systems go down. Again, let me also say that, we are integrated with several, service providers. Okay, as we speak, the ICUMS is hooked on by 19 participating, banks. Okay, there could be instances where, we would not want to put the blame at the doorstep of customs or the ICUMS, because all the, respective agencies to have their own systems that are integrated with ours. So you almost always hear, whenever there's a problem, it is customs, it is ICUMS. And for all you know, it could not even be us, it could be the other, participating, agency.
Okay. So that came from Nathaniel from Pung, Kokumpe. This one says, please ask Mr. Ohene what causes the delay of the BOEs, especially post-entry, when you submit a post-entry after manifest matching? The delays on that?
The post-entries go through, a system of approval, okay, after, you have submitted them. And those are some of the areas, where we have detailed our team, as I said, the responsibility officers, to ensure that, we can do away with some of these delayances.
Okay, I'm going to pick Albert from Newtown on the line, but this one wants to know about the very popular one almost everybody is texting about, so I'll read it. It says, is there a short code to check a vehicle duty even before you submit documents for processing? Does ICUMS also have the facility to check vehicle duty before documents are submitted? So a lot of people want to know the duty calculator.
Indeed, we have the duty calculator in place. We didn't have it at the onset of the deployment, but we do have the duty calculator in place.
Okay, you may want to grab your water. Let me pick Albert on the... Hello, Albert.
Hello, good evening.
Good evening, Albert.
Yes,
yes, we can hear you, Albert.
Okay. Please, I want to comment on the system.
Go ahead, sir.
Please, Mr. Ohene, the system, when you're working on the system, you have not even done with what you are doing. And then the system will just even log you off.
Okay.
The ICUMS.
Okay.
So when you are busy, you have not done with whatever you are doing. And the system will, itself will log you out without finishing what you are doing.
Okay.
So I want to hear something about that side too.
Okay. Thank you, Albert. Yeah.
Thank you, Albert. We have, we ourselves, as you know, and ICUMS, noticed this for, the timeout. It's called the timeout, where, you work in the system with. And we did, indicate to our technical partners that the programming should be reconfigured to ensure that the time that, is allotted for anybody to, you know, conduct their business in the system, you know, is not limited any longer. As far as I'm concerned, that, you know, reconfiguration has been done. So it is important to hear that, you know, somebody still has
that challenge.
This challenge. So I'll take note of that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. This whole thing about revenue came up some time back, that ICUMS has raked in that amount, ICUMS has raked in that amount. In terms of revenue, have you raked in something in excess that we haven't seen before? What has something new in terms of revenue generation to country? Has something been improved compared to what was there before that you can share with us? And if there are even numbers, we'll be glad to make that comparison. We'll be glad to hear the
Thank you, Sammy. Let me say that ICUMS was deployed from March when, you know, the pandemic broke out. That's the COVID-19. And in spite of, you know, the outbreak of the pandemic and its attendant, you know, chaotic, what do you call it, results, we have made very, very, very significant and modest progress, okay, by way of revenue generation. As we speak today, TEMA collection for this month, you know, of November has exceeded their target.
I see.
Yes. And
of what?
I would want to hold on with the figures.
Okay.
But I say this on authority. Okay.
That TEMA has exceeded its target
for November.
TEMA collection.
Yeah, TEMA collection
for the month of November.
For the month of, you know, November. And I think that in August, the ICUMS was responsible for the revenue target also, you know, being exceeded. So
August
there
revenue
is,
target exceeded. The month of November revenue target exceeded.
There is ample evidence.
But what about the previous the other months, though?
Well, in June, we could not say the same thing. That was the beginning of the TEMA brings in about 70%.
July and September.
Revenue. Yes, September, yes. But I can tell you for a fact that, you know, when we even started, first 2-3 months, the previous year, we were looking at 800 or 900, you know, million for the month, with 800, 750, 800. But with the, you know, introduction of the ICUMS, we started hitting 1.2, 900 billion every month. And that was, you know, not the average that we were clocking in the previous year.
I see.
Yes.
Let me pick, I'll come back to something on that, the revenue bit, but Kwesi Bochwe is calling us from Achimota. Hello, Kwesi.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the name is Kwesi Bochwe.
Okay, Kwesi Bochwe, is it?
P.
Okay, we'll get it right, I hope.
Okay, yeah, no, can you hear me?
Hello, we can hear you, Mr. Bochwe.
Okay. I have two issues.
Please go ahead with them.
Yeah, one, I want to find out what is custom permission. I work with.
Mr. Bochwe, if you
Yes, please.
if you can speak loudly because you are not too clear.
Okay. I said I work with a free zone company, and currently when we export, there's something we call.
Yes, we can hear you. Okay, I think we have a bad line, but we definitely need your that input because you've brought another dimension, free zones, and that area is quite interesting as well. But are you properly connected with the free zones as well?
Yes, we are very integrated with the free zones companies and the free zones authority. Just 2 weeks ago, we had a very fruitful meeting with the management of free zones aimed at exploring areas where we can improve on our services, including automating a lot of the, you know, documents that, you know, one needs for the processing of your you know, goods in the free zones enclaves. So there are a lot of, you know, initiatives that are taking place with the free zones, you know, authorities, and they are all geared at ensuring that, you know, we can improve upon the services that we offer the free zones companies.
One of your arguments, or the arguments that were advanced for the introduction of the ICUMS as against the previous vendors, was that government wasn't too much into data management, data collection, data gathering, revenue making, and all of that. To what extent is the Revenue Authority really embedded in data management, data mobilization, and revenue mobilization when it comes to the implementation of ICUMS?
As we speak today, one of the pillars of the whole ICUMS initiative was to ensure that government owned its own data warehouse. So we have a customs data warehouse that, you know, for security reasons, I will not want to disclose its location, but it is in a government installation. And
government is fully
yes,
in charge of that?
Yes. The customs data warehouse is a government of Ghana property as we speak.
This wasn't the case before?
Not exactly.
Means what?
Means that
because I thought
in the previous system, the data warehouse never sat in any government installation.
Does it make a difference whether it sits in a government installation or a private installation?
You see, once the issue has to do is who's in charge and who owns the data warehouse.
Wasn't government in charge in the past?
I would not want us to, you know, go back into, you know, what
that time.
What
okay. But now you're saying that
in that era. But I can assure you that the customs data warehouse is wholly Ghana government owned, and it sits in a Ghana government installation. And the data that, you know, we have to enable our work, you know, go on, sits in the bosom of the government of Ghana.
Albert is back on the line. Hello, Albert. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. Go ahead. Good evening.
Good evening. This is Albert again.
Please.
Albert from Newtown.
Yes, go ahead, sir.
Please, I just want to comment something also. I want Mr. Chairman to hear this about re-exports.
Yes.
Because recently we had an issue on re-export. Now we are working on a document from Enterprise. It has took us almost about a month now. And the system, when you do it more times, it delays and it makes the bond expire. We started working on it almost about, let's say, it took us 3 weeks before the thing went through.
I see.
Because the system is not accurate about re-exporting.
Okay.
So please, we need to check on that for us, because we didn't call a man. The system that is in, from their side, they will see it as normal for them. But when you come to the grounds, it's not as much as what Mr. Oyini is saying there. Because on the grounds, it's not like that. But within their side, they will see it totally different from when you come to the grounds.
Okay.
When you come to re-export, export, and this transit side, and even import, the system is not great as they see it. Because when you are in your office as a freight forwarder, what the system is telling you is different altogether about what he is saying over there.
Okay.
That's my comment I want to add over there. Thank you very much.
Albert. So the issue about the re-export, and also the fact that on the ground quite a number of things are there that ought to be looked at in detail then.
Thank you very much, Albert. I'd just like to say that, you know, it does not help us if we are very general in our approach to, you know, telling us about the challenges we have. I have said earlier that the system is not, you know, reached its optimum, you know, level. I would wish that, you know, whenever you have any challenges that, you know, beats our imagination, let's, you know,
address
them so that, you know, we can
make progress
and move forward.
But he mentioned the re-export.
Yes, he mentioned re-export, but I have no clue as to exactly what, you know, his problem is with the re-export, because there are also others. I work in Jamestown, okay, and one of the, you know, very major issues we have to do is with re-exports. I work in Jamestown, and every now and then we do have, you know, some challenges. At the same time, the same exporters tell us about, you know, the efficacy of the system that, you know, has been deployed, which is helping them in their re-export business. So it's not, you know, an issue where it is all gloomy.
Okay.
Yes.
So the Freight Forwarders Institute, the Ghana Institute of Freight Forwarders research team, have just sent you a few specifics as you requested. I see about 6 of them. So first one says that, and they've titled it Remnant Issues with the ICUMS. So system unable to generate tax bill for state warehouse rent. I think I asked that earlier. Ineffective first release request on ICUMS to enable GPHA or Ghana Ports and Harbours Authority accept and upload invoice. The ICUMS system unable to confirm service request created by declarants to work at the Golden Jubilee Terminal. Agents literally walk to Golden Jubilee Terminal with documents to officers for acceptance. So people are working to get that done. Lack of devices for car markers to send marking remarks to inspection officers seamlessly. And then container simple transfer complexities. Also, there are delays at the Customs Technical Services Bureau, CTSB, according to the list. These, would you be able to touch them specifically, quickly?
Let me say that we are grateful for the
the research team,
because they are keeping us on our toes, first of all, and the issues they bring up, you know, are helping us to
reform and
get
improve,
you know, our lot better. The issue of the first release, for some, I explained to you earlier that for some of the issues, they do not directly have to do with customs or ICUMS, okay, but they have, you know, a bearing in what we do because they are also managed by third parties, okay, like the shipping lines, the terminal operators. So for some of these things, they are not, you know, issues that are created specifically by, you know, the ICUMS, because the first release originates from a shipping line and not customs, okay? But the issues...
so that's one.
That's one. The issues that, you know, they have tabled here, lack of devices for car markers,
yes,
and simple container transfer and Golden Jubilee Terminal. We will take note of all of these things. And indeed, one of, you know, the leader of the research team is a part of the ICUMS team.
Okay.
Okay.
Who's this person?
Johnny Mante.
Okay.
Yes.
So he should be aware that these are pending.
These are some of the
redress.
things that are presented, which are work in progress. So I will just, you know, implore the trading public, you know, to give us some, you know, allowance to ensure that, you know, as we go along the line, just like we were able to, you know, resolve the very serious challenges at the onset of the deployment, we can get, you know, these things done and over with in the very shortest possible time.
The duty calculator, people are back on it. When are they getting duty calculators?
The duty calculator is in the system. I would maybe wish that,
how do we get them? How do people get to? Because in the past we used to play a lot and announce a lot about the duty calculator for people to be able to do it themselves.
The duty calculator is when we started in June. One of the key, you know, concerns we had, because the volumes of trade we have with vehicles is extremely high, and most people would wish that, you know, they have an idea of how much duty they are to pay prior to the exportation of their cars from, you know, the originating
countries.
Excuse me, countries. And so we implored on our technical partners to make available the duty calculator. And in several engagements we had with the freight forwarders, this issue came up till we were able to explain to them that now our technical partners had, you know, deployed it in the ICUMS. So the duty calculator, if, you know, you are a freight forwarder or you are a user of the ICUMS, if you navigate through it, you should be able to, you know.
No, but that's the problem. In the past, it wasn't for only the clearing the freight forwarder, the agent who could have access to the duty
we have been
calculator.
told,
how can the regular folks, the important public, the customers in town, everybody, ordinary me, get access and be able to calculate how much my car would cost when I bring it to Ghana tomorrow?
Okay, let me just also assure the public that this is one of the areas where, we're expecting some feedback from our technical service providers, because it's a very, how do I say, it's an issue that is very dear to the hearts, of virtually every Ghanaian.
Okay.
And we have phases in which, we deployed the system. Some of the phases, we are just about nearing completion. And so we will, be able to bring finality to some of these things when we move into the next phase. And that is one of them that would be addressed.
Yeah, that's urgent, and particularly for the example that you brought up, the case that you and I know together,
yes.
Which I would visit shortly. Let me pick Kofi from TEMA. Hello, Kofi.
Yeah, hello. I'm Kofi from Achimota.
Oh, sorry, from Achimota.
Yeah. I have two issues. One, I want your guest to explain what is custom pension. We are a free zone company. We export normally after taking your permit from MPS. I learned it used to be an automatic system whereby but currently that system was taken from MPS and now it's handled by ICUMS.
Oh, I see.
And
So
they have a system challenge whereby the system is not able to pick up automatically, but somebody to work on it can challenge. If it falls within a weekend,
okay.
On it. And
Kofi, let me let you explain yourself clearly for Mr. Ohene to understand. You are saying that you work with a free zones company. You used to use a particular facility that was with MPS, and you are told that it's been taken over by ICUMS.
Yes.
Okay, what was that? What were you using?
Custom permission.
Customs
when you are
permission.
exporting. Permission.
Okay. Okay, so this what was the customs permission used for? That's been taken over by ICUMS.
They say it's a system generated something that comes up. That was what my agent told me.
Do you know about this, Mr. Ohene?
So that is why if you know something about it, you should throw light on it, because this was something. Some of the frustration we were going through. In export. And one issue was we fall under Coperidia fleet station, and when we entry, it goes to Coperidia.
Okay.
Yeah.
Kofi, your second point, I will ask him about that, but what's your second point?
Yeah, my second point is our fleet station is Coperidia, and when we pass a BOE for export, it goes to Coperidia under compliance, and they have to earmark an officer in a system to work on the BOE, and the system will have to pick an officer automatically. But now the compliance, for it to pick an officer, you to the bank and pay if it falls automatically. When is that?
Sorry, Kofi. If you can position yourself well and really speak to us, because we're finding it difficult to get you clearly.
Can I also say that for some of these issues he's raising,
yeah.
Will he mind if we speak off
okay,
so that
and
we
deal
can
with them
actually
in
deal,
detail, yeah.
handle it?
Since it's
Yes.
quite specific in nature.
But let me say on the issue of your concern, the duty calculator, we actually have one which is, available to the public. It is by, going on a link. It's, I think, external.unipassghana.com.
External.
Yes. .unipassghana.com.
Unipass. Unipass is UNIPASS. Okay.
Yes. .com.
.com.
Yes. With that, if you access this link, you should be able to
check the duty of your own car.
Yes.
You have imported.
You should indicate the make, the model year, and you will get an estimate of the taxes that are, exigible on the vehicle.
This ought to be publicized well, and the process for which one can go through to get this done also ought to be publicized well. So you don't agree?
I agree.
Because nobody knew.
I agree with you, but
it's
information that we have made available to the freight forwarders. But I guess that you are 100% right. We need to, make some of these things more public. In any case, it is on our ICUMS website.
Okay,
yes.
Because you referred to, and earlier you referred to this particular incident that you were working on for one Dr. Ayetu, and it's very important that we reference this for the sake of others who are also watching and may have issues. So the man said he had imported a truck,
yes.
2 trucks to Ghana, and he was given this bill, which let me just scan through real quick. He was giving miscellaneous charge to be 9,000 Ghana cedis, examination officer, Marcus officer, prevention officer, senior officer, plate 608,000, clearing fee 2,600, shipping line 2,200, terminal 3,000, workmanship 10,000, and eventually he said that the cost of the truck was supposed to be 87,000, but an officer can do something about 87,000, and the importer will only pay 40,000 or 41,000 thereabout. But they should pay 20,000 to the officer, the custom officer, who will do some kululu and bring the cost down. When you hear a picture like this, and with the system that you put in place, is this feasible? And all the numbers, all the amount of money being collected and all of that?
Thank you, Sammy. The first thing I asked you was, what is workmanship when you present such a bill? Who collects workmanship? Do freight forwarders collect workmanship?
But that's on a bill that's been given to.
So these are some of the things. Yeah, these are some of the things that mar the image of the freight forwarding associations and customs officers as well. Because when we interrogated this, I was able to determine that the duties that were to have been paid on one of the trucks was not going to be in the excess of 40,000 cedis.
So the person ordinarily was supposed to pay 40,000 on the truck.
Yes.
But a bill has been generated to cost around 87,000 yes. for him to now negotiate and bring it down to something and then be able to pay bribe.
But you see, the tax bill that the ICUMS will generate will never provide you with 80,000 cedis.
So how can the ordinary importer know the difference between the tax bill that ICUMS will bring out as against this bill that has been given to them?
Sammy, this link I just provided, if you are an importer of any vehicle, you can verify the details from this link I just provided. But you see, we must say that it's unfortunate when we want to take for granted the trading public, because when you present such a bill and you present it and claim that a customs officer is asking you for 20,000.
Yeah.
Okay.
And the guy was desperate.
Yes,
the doctor was desperate looking for money from banks and begging people to just pay that bribe.
Until we spoke about it, and I told you that we needed to ask the freight forwarder to really come and prove his assertion that
he got angry and left.
Yes, this was the actual bill he was supposed to provide. Because I can tell you that in the customs we operate in today, it will be near impossible for you to make such demands and get away with it.
You are saying that it's not possible for a custom officer to make reduce a duty and then collect bribe for it?
You can't, because you see, what the agent sought to do was to play on the intelligence of the importer by telling him that the officer says he has reduced it from 80 to 40. Knowing very well that
the actual cost is 40.
Was 40. You see?
So that's what people expected, or still expect ICUMS to do. How can you bring that confidence to people that all these bills, at what point can the ordinary man say these bills are not true? How can ordinary man assess the bill? Until you mentioned this duty calculator, and we got this email from
Sammy, one of the first things you should do.
It wasn't available.
One of the first things you should do is to, as an importer, you could even pay the duty without recourse to the freight forwarder. Okay? The first thing you should do is should ask for the tax bill. Now, with the tax bill, you can't manipulate, the tax bill, because the tax bill is generated by the system.
Who gets access to the tax bill? Is it not the agent?
Yes.
So how can so are we saying that all importers should begin to demand the tax bill?
Certainly.
That's
because
what
you don't have to allow even the agent to pay the tax bill.
But unfortunately, the bills that are sent to the importers are often their own list of items.
So just like you would ask for the shipping line charges, you could ask the agent, provide me with the invoice for the shipping line. Provide me with the invoice
for the duty, customs duty.
For the GPHA. Provide me with the invoice for the terminal. Provide me with the invoice for customs duties.
So all importers should demand
we should be responsible enough, as members of the trading public, to request for what is rightfully ours. And you see, the ICUMS system is such, it's been developed such that you don't even, need to provide a freight forwarder with money to enable him pay the duty. Once he provides you with a tax bill, you are in a position to pay the duty at any participating bank or through the new platform, which we now know as the Ghana.gov, that has been introduced by the government in very recent times. Okay, it's a payment platform introduced by the government of Ghana.
So folks can just go directly pay to the banks without handing monies to individuals.
You don't need to hand any money to any individual. And I dare say that even the credible freight forwarders are comfortable with these arrangements, because when these things come about, it's a dent on their image.
I'll get back to you. Let me pick Dennis from Kumasi. Do we have Dennis? Hello, Dennis. Okay, so truncated the line, I'm told. Again, tell Mr. Okay, so this one, Takash Agbenu says, tell Mr. Ohene that the duty calculator for a vehicle has two options, but the VIN or chassis section is not working, so they should work on it. Thank you. So the duty calculator link that you gave, somebody says that the VIN or chassis section is not working. That should be difficult to work.
Well, we will look at that, whether what he's saying, is so or not, because I know for a fact that others access it and they have their duties calculated. It is an estimate of what you should anticipate to pay.
Okay. Hello, Mr. Ajima. Please, making of cars is a problem in making of cars. I'm not sure in GJT and car park. You go for an officer will ask you to go and check with different officer. It's very bad. Why do we go for maker? You will work one maker. Yeah, so he said make one. You work on one car and it becomes a problem. Nathaniel from Pungu, I think I have picked this earlier. This one says, Chairman, please ask him, is he aware we have to pay 20 Ghana cedis to check the duties for any car? Is that true?
20 Ghana cedis?
Yes. Do you pay before you can check the duty of a car?
I'll have to revert on that. I'm not too sure.
Okay. And then they are calling for you to, this is Frank, he's calling on you to repeat the link, because a lot of people really, really and badly need the link to be able to assess their own duty.
Okay. I think you can have it written down.
I think, yeah.
It's external.unipass.ghana. It's one word.
Unipass Ghana.
Yes, .com. And you see, with the issue of the VIN that the gentleman raised, the VIN in the duty calculator is, already been placed there for vehicles of a similar nature that, you are requesting for an assessment on, okay? What you need to provide in the duty calculator is the make and model, the make, model, or the year of the vehicle.
The VIN is not necessary?
No.
Oh, I see. Because in the past, the VIN was the ultimate. Then it helps you to get
the
off.
VIN that is in our system is just, to guide, one to know that this is the type of car I'm clearing.
So the model and the make and all that is good enough.
The model and the make and the year.
The year is good enough.
Key, yes.
Okay. Api Kojo from Kufridian, from Dan Suman, and it should be my last call, I guess. Hello, Kojo.
Hello.
Yes, Kojo.
Hello.
Hello, Kojo.
Yes, good evening, sir.
Good evening.
Yes, I want to ask Commissioner Ms. Ohene a question.
Go ahead, sir.
Yes, sir. I imported a hybrid 2014 Toyota Camry.
Yeah.
And I'm being asked to pay a duty of almost 26,000 cedis. And, you know, my problem here is these hybrid cars are supposed to be environmental friendly, which, when encouraged, will rather reduce emission to the system, that is the atmosphere, which we are talking about global warming and all those.
Yeah.
Instead of the government to encourage people to bring in more hybrid cars, so their expenditure on fuel will even go down, and even the citizens then return them.
Okay.
It's rather the opposite, because they rather place a high duty on the hybrid cars, so people bring in hybrid cars and they can't clear it and they leave it.
Okay.
And before you realize, it's been auctioned. And even if they are going to auction and they will even, the person will even pay for the cost of the duty, it's okay, because it means I couldn't raise the money. But now they rather sell it or auction it at a much cheaper and a lower price than even the duty the person.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm trying to direct this to policymakers. Therefore, I think the new car evolution is a hybrid and electric. And if all they can do is to place a high duty on it, when these cars come around or into the country, it's going to help the environment and help people and even help the government to cut expenditure on fuel.
Thank you, Kojo.
But we are rather in the reverse form rather. So please, first I want to know the actual cost, if you can give me the actual cost of importation of the 2014 Camry hybrid.
Okay, but have you, Kojo, just a quick question. Have you cleared the regular Toyota Camry and compared the duty against the hybrid?
Yes.
Okay, and then the regular one was cheaper than the hybrid?
Yes, the regular one is 17,000.
Okay, so let me get you. I think there's explanation to that. Let's hear from Mr. Ohene on that. Thank you very much, Kojo.
Thank you, Kojo. Kojo, the computation of taxes on vehicles is not done, you know, per hazard. It's not done anyhow. It's based on data that is available in the system once, you know, the indicators are provided, the chassis or VIN, the make, the model, and the year. And so when this information is fed into the system, because we have that database that determines, you know, the value of the car, that value of the car is depreciated by the age, okay? So if it's a 2014 vehicle, the value will be depreciated by 50%, because that is what, you know, the law dictates, okay? And in addition to that, last year, you know, the government came out with a policy direction where used vehicles and vehicles were given a discount of 30%, you know. And so all of these things determine how much duties one will have to pay on a vehicle. It's not guesswork, excuse me.
Yeah, but the fact that his point is the fact that a hybrid is the
see,
way to go, because
those decisions
are not they're supposed to be policy and
ICUMS, you know, can speak to. Those are decisions that are policy decisions. If it's referring to, you know, gas emission and all of these things, probably I would advise that, you know, he should channel his.
But actually, he made that clear that he's talking to government on that.
Okay, so that should be, you know,
yeah,
given.
I think he wasn't blaming the ICUMS system in particular. He wanted the government to know that, as a matter of fact, if we are going hybrid, for the sake of environment and for the sake of economy, yes, that's it. Sechi Saint says, and this should be the last, says, please ask the officer what CPC code to use when an expatriate comes into the country and in over 7 years buys some items from the local market falling under household goods like furniture, printers, books, frames, etc. He has misplaced the receipt and wants to travel to his home country. Does this fall under export or re-export?
If he buys them from the local market here,
which is what he said.
If he buys them from
the local market,
it cannot be a re-export. A re-export will be an item that has been brought into the country and it's been taken out, that's a re-export. Okay. But if he were to purchase local, make local purchases, and he intends to send them out, that will certainly be an export.
No, say that again, because
you see, let me explain. A re-export presupposes that you have imported a commodity into the country, okay, and you have decided that you will take it back
to the country.
Maybe you want to sell it somewhere. So that is now a re-export. Now an export originates from here. So if you make a purchase here in Ghana and you want to send it out, it's not a re-export.
That becomes
an export,
a regular
export.
Okay.
Export. Yeah.
Okay, I think that's clear. So,
can I just give us a little idea of some of the things we should be expecting?
That is your final submission.
Yes,
I was just going to give that to you.
So. The ICUMS was deployed in basically 2 phases. Now the second phase of deployment, which we are envisaging should be rolled out anytime soon, has to do with some additional modules that we have. And one that I readily mentioned is the Advanced Passenger Information Systems.
Okay.
Now this is actually going to be for the airports, where we will be profiling. The system will go ahead to profile information on passengers who will be arriving into the country to determine their risk levels, and also help with sister agencies such as immigration and national security and the like to know how to treat such passengers. Again, because it is going to profile the passengers, we will be in a position now from the point of customs to know how to treat their baggage. Okay. Now another area the ICUMS is looking at is in the area of the e-wallet for the second phase. And what do we mean by the e-wallet? With the e-wallet, what happens is that every trader who is already operating in the system has an opportunity to have duties that have been overpaid credited to their e-wallet. Okay. Now, in the event that you've imported something again, and you need to pay the duties, the credit you have on that e-wallet will be accounted to the duty that you have to pay on the fresh import. Okay. And if there is any excess, then you top it up. So it's an arrangement where we are going to have people now having credit for every overpayment, instead of going through the process of refund, which we had some difficulty with.
Okay. Would you want to shelve the rest? I'll just speak in the national news quickly, fix a few things on your sound, and then when I come back, you can summarize that and we wrap up and vamoose from here. We'll return shortly after the international news.
The leaders of the major shipping bodies are calling on the Amazon CEO, Jeff Bezos, to take a stand for the seafarers stranded at sea due to COVID-19 related travel restrictions. It is estimated that around 400,000 seafarers have been stuck on ships way beyond their contracts, unable to disembark or reach out to their families, with 400,000 more unable to sign onto ships. BIMCO, Intercargo, International Chamber of Shipping, and Intertanko sent a joint open letter to Bezos asking him to use his influence and profile as the world's leading retail entrepreneur whose business relies upon global shipping to exert pressure on the incoming Biden administration in the US and other world leaders to recognize seafarers as key workers. A multi-flagged tanker sustained hull damages following a mine explosion in the Red Sea, about 125 miles north of Saudi Arabia's border with Yemen. At the time of the incident, which took place on 23rd November 2020, the 107,000 deadweight tonnage Agrari was operating at an oil-fired plant in the port of Al-Shakik, Saudi Arabia. Having completed cargo discharge, the ship was preparing to depart. Drad Global said the Aframax vessel, able to haul about 700,000 barrels of oil, was ruptured approximately 1 meter above the waterline. Images provided by Aurora Intel indicates damage on the port side of the vessel, which has resulted in a partial breach of the vessel structure, resulting in a limited oil spill. The IMO member states have agreed to give further consideration to the industry-led proposal for the establishment of a $5 billion research and development fund aimed at accelerating the introduction of zero-emission technologies into the shipping industry. The fund is being proposed as the shipping industry attempts to centralize and streamline investment into research and development into relevant projects and scale them up in order to avoid significant amounts of money becoming stranded. Under the proposal made in 2019, the core funding will be collected over a 10-year period via a mandatory $2 R&D contribution per ton of fuel oil purchased for consumption. A container ship identified as Cyprus-registered TEMA 1 ran aground in the Singapore Strait on Sunday, November 22, after hitting an Iranian vessel grounded in the area since May. The ship, which was reportedly underway from Singapore to Jakarta, loaded with containers, had 20 crew members on board who were declared safe. The Indonesian Ministry of Transport said that after it inspected the scene, it did not find any leaks or spills around the ship. DRAD Global has reported that 3 people have been kidnapped from the Togo-flagged bunkering vessel Stelios K, which was boarded by a group of pirates while en route to Lagos. As reported, the ship owner lost contact with the vessel on November 17, resulting in authorities seeking to establish the vessel's location and make contact with the crew. Shortly after the attack, the local authorities managed to get in contact with the hijackers and started negotiating the release of the vessel and the crew. Details of the negotiations remain undisclosed.
Okay, welcome back to the program, and we're wrapping up on the 8 months of ICUMS implementation so far, how they have come. It appears, though, that, considering the number of issues that we had heard about from the beginning, significantly most of it have been reduced per the conversation and also per the commentaries that are coming. Romeo from GIF, for instance, said, how so far, so good. That is coming from somebody who was very critical from the beginning and mentioned categorically some of the issues, in fact, on air, some of the issues that were the problem. So relatively, things have improved. But where are we going next?
Yes, I was explaining to you about some of the
wrap it up
innovations we need to bring into the second phase. And one I said had to do with the advanced passenger information system, and then the electronic wallet. Maybe let me just repeat that because it's going to be quite useful. The electronic wallet, you know, will be a type of electronic card, okay, and it will be linked to the taxpayer's identification number, and it will be used, you know, for refunds, as I explained earlier. So in the event that, you know, you have overpaid, or there's some excess money that needs to be refunded to you, it will be credited to your card. And that, you know, would be used to offset subsequent payments of duties on your behalf. If there is any excess, then you would pay the difference. Again, I have to say that we have what you call the authorized economic operators. And now this is a trade incentive, you know, backed by the World Trade Organization and the World Customs Organization, and it is given to all players, you know, manufacturers, importers, exporters, brokers, consolidators, you know, where even terminal operators, where when they are able to meet, you know, the necessary conditions that, you know, governs this facility, they would have lesser customs controls, you know, so as to facilitate the clearance of their cargo. Again, we are introducing, you know, systems where litigation, investigations, and other customs practices, which hitherto were not, you know, automated, are going to now be automated in the system.
Okay.
Let me mention that for even the customs house agents, as we speak today, they are now in a position to collect their levies on the ICUMS, which, you know, is something that was started earlier and that was truncated. But, you know, with our engagement with them, we've been able to, you know, enable them now collect all their levies in the ICUMS.
So the last bit that you probably want to help the public on is how they can easily identify the cost of duties of whatever they have imported. Everybody's asking. The messages are coming. In the future, in the very near future, what are they to see? Can people just get onto your platforms, or can have a link that they can see every good that they have imported? They can tell the value themselves.
You see, every trader is in a position to, every business entity and trader is in a position to register in the ICUMS. Okay? But with, you know, what
one-off importer, somebody who has just imported,
might not be interested. But even a one-off importer, as I said earlier, you know, the onus lies on you to be responsible for, you know, whatever monies you are
expending.
You are dispensing
but
with.
That's when I know even how much it costs that I'm paying to somebody.
And I explained to you that with the external .unipassghana.com, you can access
all that information.
Yes.
Aside cars for other cargo, other goods as well.
We need to make use of the tools that have been provided, you know, for us to, you know, be aware of our rights, our responsibilities, and our obligations. Once, you know, we do that, it's easy for you not to be taken for granted.
Thank you, Mr. Ohene. We'll leave it here, and we appreciate your time. Emmanuel Ohene is Assistant Commissioner of Customs and Chairman of the ICUMS implementation team. And I'm told that almost all your friends and mates from Nigeria are watching the program. Congratulations. Thank you, Mr. Ohene. We appreciate the time that you spent with us. Also, thanks a lot to the executive producers of the program, Mrs. Isi Sudoberger, Mrs. Esther Jebidonko. See you same time next week.